10, 9.
You want answers? I want the truth!
Get ready for two guys who can't handle the truth.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
But we can. Dave Palumbo, Chris Aceto. RxMuscle.com presents Heavy Muscle Radio. Watch out!
Welcome to another episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined, as always, by the technician, Chris Aceto, on this September 16th, 2019 afternoon. And Chris, it is the Monday after the Mr. Olympia weekend. Usually we record right after. We got a little chance to digest what happened, and you were there, front and center. And you're going to give us the recap of this whole weekend, the behind-the-scenes stuff that maybe we didn't get in the wrap-ups and all that other good stuff. So right off the bat, what was your initial impression of the Olympia weekend?
The Olympia weekend, the production value was tremendous. Congratulations to Dan Solomon. And let's start right from the top, right? The Open, there was some criticism, including from me, in terms of, people were not at their best, and that's what makes it hard as a fan or a critic or a coach to come back after a show and say it was an incredible Olympia. It's kind of as we expected.
Well, we say that every year though, right? I mean, no one's it's never everyone in shape. There's always people that are off, and it's usually the best people that are usually off.
Yeah, I mean there's a few storylines, but I mean looking back. It's only a day later, but it was a good show. People looked good, but people were not at their absolute best, and we'll get to that. But congratulations to Brandon Curry, and I think I had him winning, Dave, in the prejudging, and I had Bonac second when we did the wrap up in the prejudging, and I had Hardy third in the prejudging, and the reason I had, which to me is still the whole show. Outside of like Phil these years coming back like crazy on a Saturday night or something, it still boils down to the putting it all on the line on prejudging. And the reason I thought Curry was winning is simply because he was the roundest, the fullest, the shapeliest. And although he had enough condition, the knock was the condition. I think, and it might be unfair, because I think people who have won their first Olympias, Roden, Phil, Jay, Coleman, Dorian, they just came in with a level of a condition that was, mind-numbing.
Because they needed that, because they wouldn't have won the show otherwise.
Yeah. That's a great point. And Curry didn't quite need it here. I mean, he was in condition. There's no doubt about it. He had good condition.
Question here. Let me just throw this right out of here. What would Phil Heath would have competed? Would he have won?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's the
looking like he did last year when he lost to Roden.
Yeah, because he was just. I mean, last year it's not like he was slumpy.
No, he was shredded last year.
I mean, he was peeled, and his level of peeledness would just have negated Brandon, and that's Having said that, again, congratulations to Brandon. I mean, he did look really good. He's round as hell.
He definitely has made a lot of improvements in terms of size and quality of what he brings to the stage. But and he was conditioned. He just wasn't like inside out crazy.
I just think that we thought, right, that was what we were going to see, like, something that we've never seen.
Here's a question. If he was crazy shredded, which would have brought him down in size, he would not have been as full and as round. Would that have been as good a look, and would it still have won the show?
Yeah, it would have made him dominant. I mean, if you look at, I'm looking at pictures. Brandon wins the front double to some. I mean, Hardy's competitive. Let's not break it down.
Let's not break it down yet. We're just talking in general right now.
Had he been harder, you would have had, it would have shut the naysayers down. That said, people were not at their best, and I think Brandon was better in terms of condition at the Arnold.
I think so too. Yeah, I agree.
So that was part of like this trepidation to say, you want to see when you win the Mr. Olympia, you want to see that bodybuilder at his all-time best.
So what you're saying is this would have backfired on him had Roden been in the lineup or Phil Heath.
Well, I think they would have. My guess is that 7-time Mr. Olympia, let's just say Phil would have beaten him.
Right. What about Roden?
Well, Roden beat Phil.
Right.
So, but I don't even want it to,
Would Roden have defended his title here? And how
Possibly.
easily would have it been for him, given the lineup we saw?
Right. I mean, that's obviously the talk. But having said that, Brandon was I go back to my prejudge and wrap up where I just had Brandon first. I had Bonac second, and this was a not great Bonac. And I had close on Bonac's tail, Hottie in third.
Now, why are people saying that they felt that Hottie could have won this show or at least been second?
It's a contradiction. It's a great contradiction because I contradicted myself at the night show as well. Because when asked in the wrap-up, the purists would go with Brandon. But, Hottie's condition was enough to start to question, should he have been higher? Simply because our expectation is that a Mr. Olympia will have great condition. So he had great condition, especially stand and relax from the front, especially in the double, especially in the front lat spread. He's tighter from behind than Brandon. And he's almost as thick in certain areas as Brandon. So when it came to the night show and we did the wrap up, I do this like, well, congratulations to Brandon. But then I start intuitively, just from my gut, talking about Hottie, simply because Hottie looked much sharper at night than Brandon looked sharp at night. And, you want to see the Mr. Olympia not only win the prejudgment, but also slam dunk it at the night show.
Right. And what do you think did Hottie weighed on that stage?
Hottie?
Yeah.
Hottie, in the two... Yeah, I'd say he's in... I don't know, 221?
Yeah, that's what I would say. Probably low 220s.
Enough, you know.
10 pounds over his 212 class. Was he tighter in Vancouver?
He was probably tighter in Vancouver, but, I think he's fuller and just as... I think this is a better overall look.
Did he deserve to beat William Bonac in your mind?
At the night show, I would have probably gone with him at the prejudge, and I think that I would have gone with Bonac. Overall, it's just those two are somewhat apples and oranges, but my gut still goes with Hottie. It's just weird, and for some reason I want to root against him because you don't want to. I mean, it's isn't that weird? I want to root against him simply because he's so good. You want to say like
he's the new guy too on the blog. All right, I'm not going to have you analyze the show like post for post because you did that in the wrap up already. I want to ask you the questions everyone's thinking about. So we got the Hottie question here. Now, Bonac, we know what happened with his coaching. He was working with Neil Hill for the last couple of years. He had that meltdown a few weeks ago where he basically said that Neil was taking 40% of his earnings, and that's bullshit. I heard 20%. Aaron Singerman told me they reduced it to 20%. Whatever the case may be, he fired Neil Hill. Was that a good move, or was it in the long run did it cost him maybe the Mr. Olympia title? You think with Neil Hill, how well would he have done here?
I think Williams. This is the smallest William Bonac I've seen since 2016. He was much bigger in 17, much bigger in 18, much bigger at the Arnold. He had a crazy rugged look at the Arnold this past year, where I thought that he beat Brandon, and Brandon, I thought it was close. I thought it was two different physiques. I thought Brandon was tighter at the Arnold. I thought William was way bigger at the Arnold, and I thought that William's bigness and ruggedness and freakiness at the Arnold was enough to get by Brandon, who, although in better condition, could not match the condition of William Bonac at the Arnold.
So would the Bonac of the Arnold Classic have won the Olympia?
Well, it was a much better Bonac, and it would have pushed Brandon right to the edge. That is a guaranteed.
Because I think Brandon beat Bonac because his conditioning was so good at the Arnold. Without that conditioning that he had here in Vegas, would a Bonac from the Arnold, that bigger, just as hard Bonac, beat Curry for the Olympia title? That's the question. And if he did, maybe it was a bad move for Bonac to fire Neil Hill.
Well, I mean, it would have been more competitive, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a perfect show for. In retrospect, it's a perfect show for Brandon, right? Because Bonac doesn't come in crazy gigantic, and that allows him to come in, super round and overwhelm Bonac, even though his condition is not as good as it was 6 months ago, which is hard to do. I mean, in the defense of Brandon, everyone knows when you do the Arnold, Coleman did it and risked it against Jay, and it backfired on Coleman, right? 2001.
Right.
A lot of people have, tried to do the Arnold. They come in great at the Arnold. 6 months later, they just can't replicate it. It's very difficult.
Right, but they both did it. But both Brandon and Bonac were at the Arnold, so it wasn't. Neither one of them was at a disadvantage in that sense.
No, what I'm saying is, we just said that clearly Bonac was better at the Arnold, and Brandon was tighter at the Arnold. So it may have been a better look at the Arnold. So, when you put it all on the line at the Arnold, it's hard to come back at the Olympia and redo it all over again.
Right. Now you guys can hear in the background why I wasn't at the Olympia, because we have a baby.
Okay.
So we're gonna. So let's just think about this for a second. Then we get a Bonac that's not as full and as big. We get a Curry that's not as hard, but obviously the Curry that's not as hard is better. And then we get a Hadi Chupin who's 10 pounds, arguably bigger than his 212 self. And he really, I think, as far as I could tell, I mean, I watched the whole live cast. I listened to all the analysis and, I looked at all the pictures. To me, Hadi was the talk of the show.
Yeah, because
even though he didn't win the Olympia.
He looked great.
Yeah.
And he looked, because he's new and he looked great, but I tell you, side tricep, side chest, front, side shots, Brandon dominates on those shots, period. Not beats, dominates. The front lat spread, while Hadi looks crazy, I mean, in his own right, Brandon is ridiculous in the front lat spread. Hadi has a tremendous front double. He's harder than Brandon, but Brandon's shape, fullness, and cartoonish, even though he's not as tight, I think still gives, I give him the edge. And I'm going by both, Dave, pictures and being there in person.
Right. So, Chris, so we got the top three pretty much squared away. This was, when you look at this Olympia, okay, I don't think anyone ever thought, except for Jay Cutler, that Hadi Chupin would be in the Open and would be placing top three. The question is, what in your mind dictated whether the judges felt that Brandon should win, Bonac was second, Hadi third? Because a lot of people felt that Hadi could have been second. Some people felt Brandon wasn't in condition enough. What was the fight? Give me in your mind what the final clincher was for those top three places.
It's the $1 million question, and I'll tell you what, Dave. Before I answer that, I am not the best judge, but I'm good at following. In other words, it's hard for me sometimes to pick out, like, okay, who's the top four? Should this guy be four? This guy, who's going to be in that initial call out? But I think a couple things. The show was judged fairly. I think I asked J.M. Mannion. I saw J.M. Mannion there. He's got a zillion years of experience. And I tried to suss him out at the night show. I just wanted to see his opinion. Because, what do you think?
JM, which is Jim's son. He's not judging at all whatsoever, but he's got good insight, yes.
And I said, JM, what do you think? And he didn't say anything. He was sitting in front of me, and I said, come on, what do you think? And he said it's a missed opportunity for a lot of people. And I just left it at that. I don't know if he meant like people coming in at their best who are in the show, or people who did not compete in the show, because there's lots of people who didn't compete in the show, or very small handful. You know who they are. Phil and Ramy, for example. So the judging, once they pulled them out in the pre-judging, I thought 1, 2, 3 was fair and accurate, even though I struggled with, would I switch Bonac with. In the pictures, Bonac looks very undersized compared to previous shows, but in real life, he's still packing a decent amount of muscle, sort of enough to get by Hadi. And I did have Hadi in third, and I couldn't put my finger on it. I spoke to Jose Raymond after the prejudge, and I said, I just have Hadi, I just have him third. But at the night show, I could see him moving up, but not getting by Brandon. So that my huge focus, of course, was who's winning this show. And I think it comes down to standing relaxed, Brandon's capped shoulders, capped tries, full pecs. A lot of people criticize his legs, including Kim Chebesky, which I know people are talking about. But, they were like good enough for that package to put him in first place. Yeah, we'd like to see legs. I was critical. I said, it's weird.
Where would Curry, in this condition, have placed last year? I'll remind you, Rulli was third, and
I know that's exactly what I was thinking about. He'd be bad. I think he would be battling with Rulli. The loser of this show was Rulli.
Yeah,
so he'd be battling with Rulli last year for third place. That's my
which was essentially first place this year because no Roden, no Phil, obviously. Now I heard that Hottie, a couple of people sent me some videos too. There was like a skirmish backstage between Hottie and some of the Oxygen Gym guys. Do you have any insight into that? Did you hear anything about that?
I don't. I heard there was a skirmish. I don't know what.
There's
happened.
A video that's up there too that was out there. I don't know if they took it down. I saw Hottie yelling at me or talking loud with another guy from Oxygen and. Was it just a battle of the Iranian or Persian guys versus the Arabic guys? I mean, that's what it seemed like.
I mean, there's nationalism at play and there's like pride at play. That's why I don't go backstage. I've never been backstage with any show.
And we never go to the Olympia backstage.
Because
usually we're not allowed back then, but probably this year you could have gone.
I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to put my 2 cents in if somebody gives me the cold shoulder and I think I'm Mr. Cool, Calm, and Collective, and then I lose my temper over something. But I mean, it played out on stage. It doesn't have to play out backstage. But I understand. Hottie's there and he's a threat. His first time out, he's a threat. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And you want to, if words are exchanged, bad words are bad words, and that's going to cause a flare up, and good words with bad intentions can cause a flare up.
Yeah.
So people are hot tempered backstage. Everyone wants to win. I mean, I don't know what went down. Do you know what went down?
I don't know. I don't know the details of it. So
look at Phil and Kai. They took it right onto the stage.
Yeah.
True. You have to be able to. It's difficult, because we're in social media times, right? You have to be able to, as best you can, respect your competition, even though you want to, beat them down on stage. But sometimes, unfortunately, that carries to backstage because, everyone's got so much time invested and people have so much pride and egos invested that even a good word could be misconstrued as taken wrong. You know what I mean?
Sure, of course.
I mean, who knows? I could go backstage and say...
Is there a battle, though, back there? Is there a battle between the Oxygen, the Kuwait guys, and the Iranian guys?
No, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the rivalry is in the Middle East.
Say this, Dave. You can say this about Brandon Curry. You can't find anyone to say anything bad about him.
Right.
And, from what I know about Hottie, you can't find anyone to say anything bad about him.
No, but we don't really know anyone who... And
no, I know, but it's Dave, the point is it's the people invested in them around them, and they want them to win so much, that...
I think you're right. It's the entourages that are getting into fights.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yes, that's what exactly the entourages, right?
Yeah.
It'd be great. Listen, they do a press conference. You want great video? Get the video backstage of the tension the whole time. Put it up on the screen for the fans to see. Hottie pumping up, Rolly pumping up, Beta backstage, the Camel Crew backstage, Rolly.
I saw Sid got the great interview with Bader after Brandon won. The no bullshit. See, no bullshit. I tell you, no bullshit.
Yeah. Well, he ran through the interview and we were doing the wrap up and he had to run by. He didn't come by to.
We had to let him gloat. We had to let him gloat a little.
No bullshit. I throw the dig back. See, that's why I don't go backstages. It's a vacated title, dude. It's not like he beat Phil and Sean.
Right, but you know what? You and Bader have like a friendly type of banter, not like where you want to guys kill each other or anything like that. But But yeah,
No,
so
I
Bader came in and
congratulated-
said he
I-
got the Olympia. No bullshit. You got the 212 Olympia with Kemal, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then what did you say to Bader? You said he won a vacated title.
Yeah, I said, you want a vacated title, the Bader? And I said, I got the 212 Oscar, and he's going home empty-handed or something like that, you know.
You guys are too much. I love the funny thing is Bader loves to come back and keep playing into the same. He enjoys the
funniest-
game just as much as we do.
Dave, the funniest thing is that, as I've always said, Brandon is the deserving winner, but he doesn't look like the pictures that they put out like 3 weeks out. Because 3 weeks out...
The magic
it looks-
mirror.
Huh?
It's not. They got the magic mirror over there. That's
The
why.
same thing with Rolly.
Yeah, the magic mirror makes you look great.
You know, or
I'm the.
you know,
I went to Italy 2 years ago. It was, and you know me. I'm 190 pounds, 185 pounds, and I was posing at whose gym was that I was at? Thomas Benagli has a gym in Italy, and he's got a posing room. The lighting is unbelievable. I was posing in the mirror in this thing. I looked like I weighed 220 pounds. Seriously, you know, I'm lean. I was hitting shots. I'm like, holy mackerel.
yeah, maybe I can do the Masters Olympia.
Yeah. I posted them. I remember people go back and look at my Instagram. People are like, holy shit, you're making a comeback? Because the lighting in the mirror was such that it just made my physique look better. And I think that mirror, we call it the magic mirror jokingly, but it does make people look better than they are, which is great for social media. Mm-hmm. But that's not to take away that, I mean, Brandon did look really good on stage. So, so what do you think happened to Rulli? We'll talk about Dexter in a minute. Dexter finished his fourth, which kind of sucks because Aaron and I had this bet that I said that Rulli would place higher than Dexter. He said Dexter would place higher than Rulli, and the bet was so that whoever lost had to do a video commercial for the other person's products. And I got to do a commercial for his Redcon products, but Dexter screwed me. But let's talk about Rulli, because Rulli was a guy that people were talking about that could have been won this show. What happened to Rulli? Now, I heard he had a hamstring injury a week or two out, and Dennis James had alluded to that in our Iron debate prior to the Olympia, but he had never said who the person was. I don't think that should have affected him negatively. You mentioned that you thought initially that he was way too flat at prejudging.
He was just, you know, this was the toughest show. The person who walks away from this show with the toughest result to handle is Rulli, because Rulli looked flat in prejudging. And I'm looking at pictures now and he still looks like gigantic. But as gigantic as he was, he just looked like flat. And once he got into the comparisons, it just like air was let out of his muscles. He just flattened out right before your eyes, which is possibly part of the reason that on the night show he even looked flatter, you know. And you know, it was an opportunity where I thought that if Rolly comes in at his best and Brandon comes in at his best, the battle comes down to the shape, flow, roundness, taper, traditional bodybuilding look of and flow of Brandon versus a mass monster with great condition. And I thought, okay, Mr. Olympia is still about being huge, so Rolly would be in the driver's seat. But as it turned out, he didn't look big on stage, and you know, I thought he was fortunate to be able to be in the call out, like the second call out with like only 4 guys. I think there was a call out with just, you know, the top 4, and they went through some compulsories, maybe 5, but you know, he was at risk of slipping even down further.
And he looked good. He looked way better at night, but obviously too late, too
He
late.
still looked flat at night. I'm telling you, he still looked very flat. You know, it's just, you know.
So you think the conditioning was there, and he just didn't have the.
I don't think the condition. I don't know. I don't know if it was condition or water. He looked very watery in the prejudging, but very flat. Like, you know, when Rolly comes out and hits a crazy most muscular, the crowd goes nuts. You know, they root for him. He didn't get that crowd on his side like when he first came out. Hit a front double, hit a most muscular. You could tell that he looked very flat, and he was watered out through the midsection, which hurt him too.
What went wrong, do you think?
Who knows? You know how it is. Here's what can go wrong. Too many carbs, too little carbs. Too much sodium, too little sodium. Too much water, too little water.
If you had to speculate, what do you think that they did wrong with him? That they, were they trying to bring him in too big? And he wasn't in shape, and then they over-diuretic him at the end? I mean...
I would have no idea, because it's just, the reason why is because of big physique. It's hard to peak someone who's gigantic like that because it's just harder. I mean, you all know, you've worked with a lightweight guy. The lightweight guys, you got a weight to make, around what weight they look their best. It seems like the bigger you are, the harder it is to bring someone in super tight, which means little water retention, but still full. It's hard to create that balance. I mean, ask Rolly. He always has trouble peaking at, the Arnold. This year, last year, he was great at the Olympia last year, bad at the Olympia this year, great on certain shows the last couple of years, not so great. Dennis James made the interesting point, if he was peeled like when he won the New York Pro, he probably would have won this hands down.
Right.
I mean, that's going way back.
What about if he looked like he did last year?
He'd be tough. He would have been damn tough to beat. Because he had the fullness, he had the he had better fullness last year, and he was in better condition last year. I mean, you could at the night show when they moved him out, dude, you could feel like just by looking at his face, like
I felt bad for him just watching him. I knew he wasn't at his best. You could just see it. I mean, the guy had his oodles. It was like and Sergio Oliva in the wrap up with you guys said it best. It was almost like he became the Ramy of this Olympia.
Yeah, I mean, both of them. Ramy last year, could have. Who knows what could have happened? Rolly this year, who knows what could have happened? And it's funny, all these wacky rivalries, like I can't stand Bader, he can't stand me, the Iranians can't stand the oxygen can't stand them. I'm exaggerating a little bit. Aren't all the athletes great guys? Isn't Rolly?
I don't know anyone who's bad. Yeah, I don't. There's really no nasty guys.
Rolly.
Yeah.
Everyone likes Brandon. Everyone likes Bonac. Everyone likes Hardy. It just people get caught up in the rivalries and I mean, you feel bad for Rolly. And had Rolly come in here at his absolute best, we would have loved it. We would have been talking about him. Rolly is someone who at his absolute best this year, you'd be asking me the question, can he beat Phil Roden? And would say, well, he's bigger than him, so yeah. Right.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
No,
as opposed to, like, Brandon can still get knocked off by Phil and by like a Roden just because their detail is at time, is overwhelming, and they got showy, poses that are, when you're there, you sit up and say, wow. And that, that was the one thing that struck me, Dave, of the prejudging is previous Olympias you could go to. I'll give you last year, where you sit up in your chair and you say, you get. If you're a fan of the sport, you go nuts. I'll give you the examples. Last year, Rolly comes out and you'd say, like, holy Rolly can win this. Roden comes out and you say, Roden can win this. Phil comes out and you say, Phil's got this, because they all were at their all-time best.
Right.
Or they're at their, quote, best. Or Bonac, last year. Maybe he was not at his all-time best, but it was his probably second best.
Sure.
And, it's just one after the other. And here it was like, as a super critic, you say, Brandon, he was better at the Arnold. Here comes Bonac, better at the Arnold. Hardy, great because we've never seen him before. Rolly, better at the Olympia last year. So all of it as a, quote, Mr. Olympia competition, where you expect like people to just nail it. At least a few people. You expect people to come off, but you expect some people to just to absolutely kill it.
We said right off the bat that everyone was not going to be in shape. That was a guarantee, And
but our expectations is that the top four is an epic battle.
Well, if everyone's not in shape, it can't be an epic battle,
I know, but people, Dave, last year, that's my point.
Where does Hadi Chupin place if he came into the show last year? That's a question.
Not where he is this year.
What place would he have been?
Behind, well behind Rolly.
Would he have been behind Bonac?
Last year's Bonac? Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. This is not the same William Bonac as we saw last year with the crazy...
And Bonac had problems last year. He wasn't at his best, but he was...
No. He was best the year before where he beat Ramy in prejudging.
Right. Exactly. Let's talk Dexter Jackson, 4th place. Now, I wasn't that impressed when I first saw him come out. I don't know if he got better at night or if the other guys just didn't improve. Was this a good placing? I mean, it was obviously an awesome placing for a 49-year-old Dexter Jackson. I'm sure he wanted to win the show, but what was your impression of how he looks now compared to the past, and was this the right placing for him?
Dexter was the only guy in the entire lineup who was better at the night show where you say, wow, he's much better tonight than last night.
Okay.
And it goes back to the judge, and I think the judges slammed him in prejudge, and I don't think he was anywhere near 4th place by the call-outs. And for the night show, I personally thought some people got worse. I thought Brandon was better in prejudging.
You want to know something funny? I'm looking at the scorecards. Dexter got a better score at the prejudging than at the finals.
Crazy, so I'm wrong.
Well, you might not be wrong. You might just be wrong about what the judges thought. But it's kind of crazy. At prejudging, he got 18 points. Obviously, lower being better. And at finals, he got 25 points. So... Rulli actually beat him at the night show.
Wow.
So Rulli did come back a little better, so maybe that's why. But it wasn't obviously enough to make up any ground at that point.
But overall, Dexter was, he was extremely tight in the glutes and hams, which is smart, key for him. And I mean, the only place where I see Dexter like regressing is. His midsection, of course, is a little wider, but so was everyone else's. And on the back double, it doesn't like the trap and mid back doesn't crazy pop like it did. I mean, he's 50, dude. I mean, it's just
it's incredible that the guy looks as good as he does.
We're trying to take the guy, apart, and the guy's 50 and he's 4th in the world.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, he's got to be thrilled. Well,
yeah.
Sure, he was coming in. I'm sure he was coming in to shoot to win. But
I think he figured this was the chance. It was like the perfect storm. Guys were off. No Mr. Olympia. This was his. If he was ever going to win a show, I think this was his last opportunity to win an Olympia, at least. I mean, he could win any pro show during the year, but he wanted another Olympia title. I don't think it's going to happen. If he couldn't win this one, I mean, who's he going to beat at this point? He'd have to come into a show where everyone was just terrible.
Yeah. I don't see another Olympia in the cards for him, but he's a major. He's still a major player.
Yeah.
Major. He's not like a second string guy. He's like a major.
No. He can win He can probably win every show except for the Olympia at this point.
Yeah.
Who goes into the Arnold Classic this year now? Does Hadi Chupin go into the Arnold Classic, or does he try to prepare for the Olympia for the whole year now?
Well, these things go in cycles. You probably get whoever goes into the Arnold Classic, probably all 12 people will be at their all-time best because everyone who's doing the show has to think about this show with the idea of that people were not at their all-time best.
Right.
Just things slingshot the other way.
Well, you're not going to have Brandon Curry in the Arnold Classic this year, obviously. Bonac is probably burnt out as hell. I can't see him doing the Arnold again, but maybe he will. Who else is left? Maybe Dexter will do it. Who knows?
Yeah, Dexter could. There you go. So,
right? He's 4th in the world. Who could beat him? Hadi Chupin. I mean, if Hadi does it, maybe that's the only person who could beat him.
Yeah. Yeah, he can't get by Hadi by virtue of the standing relaxed. Hardy's tight, full, round, square.
Assuming, let's do a scenario. Let's assume Sean Roden beats his case this year and decides, to do the Olympia next year because everything's settled. Can Brandon Curry beat a Sean Roden at his best?
I think so.
Okay.
and I think that Sean can beat him. Meaning, I think
They're
Sean,
close, is what you're saying.
No, well, I think that at the Olympia, I would give the edge for sure to Sean, and here's why. In no way in hell does this Brandon Curry beat a Phil Heath in any of Phil's showings. Sean has, beaten him before, beaten Phil, the only one to do it. And Sean has come down to the wire with Phil and been close second. And even when Sean was third in 2015, that was, a show where I thought Sean beat him in prejudging. So Phil is the template for unbeatable. And Sean's gotten close a couple times and beat him once. So I think we underestimate Sean's abilities simply because Sean is a unique body on stage. I know he looks terrible, with a tank top on, and but you put him under the lights when he's at his first. It's not like the guy is just hanging by a string.
Yeah,
So,
you cut out for a minute, but yeah.
I would say that Sean's the greatest threat to the title still.
No, let's hope he settles his case and we can see that rematch next year, because that'll be super exciting. Of course, Ruli Winkler obviously has to settle for 5th. And then, probably the shocker of the show is Steve Kukla, right? 6th place. Probably arguably could have been 5th. And in that first call-out. So, he's got to be the most improved guy in the lineup, right?
Yeah, I would say he's...
this is a big year for him.
It's been a big 2 years for him, I think. Mm-hmm. I think that Steve Kukla, I know I said it explicitly on this show before, that, when he was placing 10th at the Olympia, and 10th and 12th and 14th, I never thought that he would, this late in the stage, because he's not a young pup anymore. I never thought that he would all of a sudden make a big jump with his physique, but he has in the last 2 years. This year and last year were years where he's come into his own in terms of, I think he's finally taken a long time, gotten the level of muscle maturity that allows him to get the first call out. And I think in years past, he's been wide, he's been low body fat, just as low as he is now. But the only difference is he's finally got a level of density through the back and muscle maturity through the back, and especially through the shoulders and arms, that allow him to deserve the first call out.
He's like a Gunther. He's got the big structure. He's got a lot of muscle. He needs more, and he's always in condition. I think as long as he keeps improving, he's going to keep moving up in the place. He's still relatively young too, so.
Yeah, the irony is that he's huge and needs more muscle because of the width.
Yeah. But when he fills that structure out, it looks impressive, and it's getting better and better and better. So I would say he was really the surprise of the show. I think the guy who most people are talking about in the show was Patrick Moore, who finished in 10th. You work with him, obviously. Everyone's calling him the Ronnie Coleman in the making. If I were him, I would hate to hear that title put on me, because it puts so much pressure on you now, because now people are expecting to see you gain 30 pounds of muscle next year and win the Olympia. Yeah. But the truth is, he's got a really tremendous structure. He's got a small waist. He was conditioning. You had him in terrific shape. He's got. You can't say anything about his legs are tremendous. And, maybe he needs a little more size in his upper body. But, he might have been the most overlooked guy on the stage. And he certainly was one of the most talked about.
Yeah, I just thought that I thought he legit, going into the show the day before, I thought he would legitimately get the tail end of if they call out. Sometimes when they call 7 in the first call, when they bunch it up. Yeah. I know there's only 15 in the show, but I thought he'd get the tail end, of the first call out, and then all the critics, people with an eye, who would see him before the show. It's funny, they would say he needs to get into a call out with Dexter, because obviously he's not big enough to get into to stand next to Rolly. So that doesn't make sense. So people would say, obviously he's not ready to get in a call out next to Brandon, who's much thicker than him. But the default guy was the guy who's not as big with condition and balance. What if he gets a call out with Dexter? And that didn't come into play, but he did get at the night show good call outs, and he was, he's a diamond in the rough, and he was in tremendous condition, actually far better, I think, than even the pictures show.
Yeah, he's going to be very dangerous if he can put on another 10, 15, 20 pounds of muscle. He'll be, very difficult to beat. I think the disappointment of the show, as he always is, really, I mean, aside from the couple wins he's gotten, is Cedric McMillan.
Yeah, it was like the Rolly scenario. It was like a show that, it goes back to JM. And I don't know what JM meant by that. I don't know if he meant like people who weren't at the show, but I think he meant like
Cedric.
in the show.
Cedric,
I think he meant everybody. He meant Bonac.
But you and I both know,
collectively, the whole group.
Looking at Cedric up on that stage, he's structurally bigger than everyone.
He dwarfed this lineup in terms of structure.
I mean, he made everyone look like little kids. If he had looked even close to the way he looked at the Arnold Classic the year he won it, he would be Mr. Olympia now. It's got to. I don't know if it drives him crazy or what. I think he's afraid of success, to be honest with you. But it would drive me nuts if I knew that I could have won the Mr. Olympia title had I just dialed in my physique right. I mean, given with what I had. I mean, the only things I always tell people, the only things you have control over, when you compete are your conditioning, your presentation, and your tan. His presentation and his tan are great.
Well, sometimes not even your tan. When the same tanners tan you, I've seen that, right? Haven't you seen that? And they're like,
right, but I'm just saying, I used to say that because back in the day you used to do your own tan, but you can control these variables very easily. He left the one variable that you can control, he left it to chance, which is conditioning. Yeah. He is either too soft or he's too ripped and flat. It's like he doesn't have the right formula. I know you're not working with him anymore, so no one is. He works with himself, which is probably the biggest problem he's got. Some people need coaches. Ronnie Coleman said it best. He goes, I needed a coach. I didn't know what I was doing. Cedric absolutely needs a coach because he thinks that he knows what he's doing, and he just doesn't because he can't nail it. Once in a blue moon, he shows up looking really good, but he needs someone there who's going to overlook everything he does, whether it be you or someone else. Cedric needs someone who he's accountable for, and he doesn't want to be accountable, obviously. So maybe he doesn't want to be Mr. Olympia. I don't know.
No, I mean, I don't know what I do know this, that there were several looks that I could list in the past at different shows that were Cedric has brought to the table, which was capable of winning this show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Capable, not necessarily would. I mean, Brandon's Mr. Olympia.
Sure.
But capable, and I say that like I go back, Rolly too.
One of the tenets of being Mr. Olympia is being a representative of the sport, an ambassador, so to speak. I think they got a great guy in there. I'm glad that Brandon won because he's going to be great. I mean, I love Bonac's physique, but Bonac's a hothead, So, I think he would have won the title well because he really wanted the title, but I think that Brandon is like the feel-good guy. He's the guy who sacrificed for his family, went to Kuwait and trained. No one has a bad word to say about him. He's a good ambassador of the sport. So I think they got the right guy in there. It would have been it would have been awkward if Hottie would have won the title because he doesn't speak English. Not that you have to speak English to be Mr. Olympia, but it's hard because, to be an ambassador when you can't actually talk to the fans of the sport. So I think that if he works on his English over the next year, which I tell all the guys who can't speak English that well, work on your English because it's going to make you a lot more money. Because let's face it, you better make money from this sport if you're going to sacrifice your body and you're going to put so much time and effort into it.
Well, I just want to see the best guy win, and in this case, I think that
it was the right guy. I think they got the right guy.
I have no problem with a hothead winning. And some people have reasons, to be a hothead. If you're giving up 40% of your income, I'm just kidding.
I thought that Bonac really won the Arnold Classic. You and I both thought after prejudging that he won it.
I did.
We didn't have a problem with Curry winning, but I thought that Bonac was the best guy on that stage in Columbus. So that burned a hole in him. I don't know why he would have just not toughed out this show with Neil Hill and then dealt with whatever the politics of it is or whatever his contract was with him in terms of handing over money afterwards. I think that was a foolish move. It created too much drama, and it didn't allow him to focus on the show. It took the focus off the show. So, All right. We could go talk about the rest of the guys, but I think those are the guys that really made an impression upon me, at least. Cedric, once again, giving up a big opportunity, finishing 7th. Lucas Ossital, 8th. Akeem Williams, you were very impressed with Akeem. I know that.
Very. Yeah.
Oscar did a great job dialing him in as well as he could. He still has the thick skin. He still needs more back detail. But I thought, I think he could have been a couple places higher, right? I mean, he probably should have beat Cedric.
Yeah, I mean, because he's full of, he's got some knockout. I mentioned earlier a lot of people who came out. The crowd people didn't make an impact. I mean, people who made an impact, let me say it this way. When Akeem came out, the crowd was like, whoa, and the crowd is not the judge, and sometimes the crowd is always wrong. But at least, it's reflective of the way he looked. People, they love a mass monster. They love a Rolly when he's at his best. And this is, I think, the best Akeem we've seen in terms of crazy roundness and, condition. And people went crazy when he came out. I mean, hit a front double, hit the most muscular, side chest was light, crazy out. I mean, tons.
His body is definitely coming into its own now, and I think that if he continues to improve, he's gonna keep going up the placings. He's one of these guys that's still on the rise. Luke Sandow, 11th place here. I mean, this has got to be a huge disappointment for Luke to place outside of that top 10. He really had a great year. 3rd at the Arnold Classic. He pushed Dexter at that Tampa Pro to get the final qualification spot. What went wrong for Luke? Was it too many shows in the course of the year for him, or what do you think?
He thinks it's too many shows, but I think that it's probably my mistake bring him in too big, because truth be told, at the Tampa, he looked good, really good, pushed Dexter, but he was flat, and really he was better the day before and the day before, and I think that it was his desire to tighten up, which I didn't think he needed to tighten up at all for Tampa. And it was a flatter version of what was in the room 2 days before. Mm-hmm. I think had he bought that, he could have won Tampa. And then the miscalculation on my part is, okay, then, you got to be bigger. You got to be rounder, because you got to highlight what's good for you, right?
Sure.
And I just think he was maybe 3 pounds, 4 pounds too heavy, and that would have been no blame on him, but on me. But I think he's of the mindset that maybe his body's burnt out. I mean, it could be a couple of those scenarios. I'm not sure, but he could have been as high as. He could have been higher for sure had he been in his, like a hybrid between the Tampa and the Arnold. And the unfortunate part is, I think that Tampa, he could have actually nailed it 100% and got a confirmation that was the best look. Period.
Well, I thought Dexter looked better in Tampa than he did in the Olympia, to be honest with you, and Luke almost beat him. So
yeah, no, you're right. Tampa, Dexter was probably overfull here compared to Tampa. He had a more detailed look. It could be the lighting. The lighting in Tampa is a little bit different than here. Sure. The Olympia lighting, and to look at in pictures and video, it's pretty harsh. It works good in person, but it doesn't work good in pictures.
Yeah. Let's talk about the 212. Congratulations. You got the champ, Kemal Gargny, the guy no one was talking about. We had him in there in the picks, but no one really was favoring him. Everyone was talking about Derek Lunsford. And when the prejudging came out, Derek Lunsford just was not at his best. He was holding water. His abs were kind of smooth. Yes, he came back tremendous at night. Didn't seem to phase the judges' opinions, because the judges, it looks like, at least on the scorecards, gave Kemal the victory on both prejudging and finals. Compare these guys to each other. Tell me what your opinion was of that battle.
Well, the prejudging was a complete runaway by Kemal, and it wasn't meant to be that way. In other words, they started Kemal on the end, and then they moved him in the middle, and they kept him in the middle. But I'll tell you why Kemal won here's my prediction for Kemal coming into the show. I told him I thought he should beat Derek last year. And, I've told you that, and I tell people who I know that. And
Well, Derek was not good last year by any means.
that's right. But they had the 212 prejudging at the Orleans Arena last year. It's a gigantic stage. And when they judged the final three for the last call-out of prejudging, they had Flex, Lunsford, and Kemal. The stage is so big that these guys were like standing 4 feet away from each other. You can go back and look in the pictures.
Right.
And by standing 4 feet away from each other, I mean, you can still judge a show that way, but I told Kemal, listen, this year they're having the prejudging at the Expo. It's a small stage. If they call 5 or 6 people in the first call out, you're going to be, 6 inches from people.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be an advantage for you, I think, my guess, is because you'll be able to contrast your crazy detail, because he does have crazy detail in real life, next to Lunsford, who has less detail. And it's more easy to see than when you're on a gigantic stage and you're separated 4 feet from each other.
But Derek just his abs look smooth to me at the prejudging.
Well,
he came back at night way better, I thought. But
yeah, he was way better at night, without a doubt.
Does he just have immature muscle because he's young? I mean, at this point, I think Kemal has just grainy, granity, like chiseled muscle, which is like you could tell he's been training for 30 years.
Yeah, that plays a big part of it, right? The two things play a part in Kemal's win is the level of muscle maturity. We talked about Kuklo not having maturity until just like the last couple of years, and that and his flow and shape in real life is unique on itself. I mean, I had a few people, competitors who came to Kemal's room. I'd say, I'm in Kemal's room, come see me.
Right.
And, I'd be like, I'd take a look at Kemal. Every single person I asked the same question to, and I knew I would get the same answer. What is his best shot? Now, this is in real life. I mean, you can come up with a little different answer based on picks, but in real life, because there's so much to see in so many poses.
You want my answer before you tell me what your answer is?
Yeah.
Hands on hips, most muscular.
Okay, that is his best shot. But in real life, you say, I can't pick it out. I don't know, because he's got so many weird things. Side tricep, his intercostals are so deep and etched, on the side tricep that it's almost remarkable. He
really has a young-looking physique too. He doesn't look like he's 47 years old.
Dave
doesn't have a wrinkle in his skin anywhere.
You finish my sentences all the time. I saw him in the hotel room, and I said, the tighter he got, I said, Kemal, your body looks like it's 23.
It's crazy, right? He has no loose skin anywhere.
Nothing. And
even Dexter's got some loose skin. Not a lot, but you could tell.
I think what surprised, what put that show away from him, for him, besides the conditioning, is what you just said. His hands on hips, most muscular. I think probably made an impact with the judges. Like, wow, this guy's a lot bigger than we thought.
I mean, who else pulls that shot off? Flex Wheeler? I mean, come on, it's hard to pull that shot and really look good in it. He's really wide for a short guy too. You don't realize how wide his clavicles are.
Yeah,
he's super wide. He just doesn't have big delts. He has like wide delts too for a short guy.
He's going to go back to Libya, Dave, as which he already did after the Arnold a couple years ago as a national
superstar. Yeah. You have a picture you took of, I think it's of Kemal and who else did you take a picture with? It was you and some. Those guys look like midgets compared to you. My wife Amanda shows me. She's like, "You got to see this picture. Look how tall Chris looks." I'm like, "No, these guys are just really short."
Oh yeah. Kemal's like nothing. Yeah.
That's why they're so good, though.
Well, not only that, but if you see Kemal with a T-shirt and he just wears a regular T-shirt and jeans, you say this guy's going to get crushed.
Right. Well, another guy who looks like he's going to get crushed in clothing is Sean Clarita, who I think he's really the superstar of this lineup. I mean, this is the stark performance, the comeback kid, so to speak, because I mean, Sean's like a Dexter Jackson story. He started off so light in the bantamweight class that people thought this guy's never going to do anything as a pro. And I remember he always used to come to all the Bros versus Pros challenges. He'd be like, "No, you'll see, watch out for me." And I'm like, all right. And I've seen him go up and up and up. He won the New York Pro, and now he's third at the Olympia. Unbelievable, right? If the guy weighed 20 pounds more, he would be winning easily.
Yeah, he could do the Open at 20 pounds more, probably.
He's only in the 160s, right?
I don't know, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's round, he's full, he's put together right, he's detailed. He's got good presentation. Yeah. It's very impressive.
And another sleeper in this lineup you have to talk about is John Jewett.
Made for the class. He's a guy that you will look at and say he's not going to do well until he gets on stage.
He beat Ashkenani, who finishes fifth. I mean, that's huge for John Jewett. No one even knew who he was. I mean, we did. I've interviewed him before, but no one knows who this guy is. And he comes in here and he knocks off Ahmad Ashkenani, who people are talking about as a guy who could win this class,
Yep. He has wide shoulders, good V-taper. Every single shot he looks good in. And to be competitive at the Olympia, you have to look good in every shot because, when you're being judged, you of course you have to have condition, which he had, but you have to look good from all angles to place really well in the Mr. Olympia, because if you have a back double and it's weak, the judge is going to nail you on it. If you have a side chest that's a weak shot, they're going to nail you on it. And every single shot, he's got a lot of balance in. He's full in all the shots. He's well developed in all the shots. It automatically puts him in the running for a really good placing.
Yeah, and who would think
stand out?
Yeah, who would think you got Kemal winning? Second place, you got Lunsford, who everyone kind of suspected was going to be up there, obviously. Third, you got Sean Clarita. Fourth, John Jewett. These are not guys that you thought necessarily were going to be up there. And now you get to the guys that everyone thought was going to be up there. That Ahmad Ashkenani's in fifth, and Samuel Haddad's in sixth, and seventh place, Eduardo Correa, who a lot of people thought was going to be in that top three. It's like the new people are coming up and the old guard are getting pushed out. That's really what it amounts to in this division. People say the 212 is dying. I don't believe that. I think it's just being reborn, essentially, is what's happening. Is the new talent is starting to take over for the old talent. And it's going to take a couple of years. And then these new guys are going to be, better than ever. They're going to be the guys that everyone is like, holy moly, look at these guys,
Well, Dave, it goes into we did a show, I think it was me and Sid. Me and you did it on the radio, and me and Sid did it from my hotel room before. And I don't buy into this bull crap of I think the days of getting a bye because you were second 2 years in a row are gone. You know what I mean? There's just it seems like so in Ashkenani's, he wasn't at his best.
He should never won New York. We all said it.
I agree with that. But he wasn't at his best, and he didn't, no favors. I mean, I don't mean a favor, but it's like somebody's doing him a favor. But at that day, you have to be at your best that day to get the placing that you deserve. And I honestly felt like he was, fortunate to place where he placed. Right. He might have, he could have been lower, much lower.
Has anyone from Oxygen Gym at this year's Olympia, was anyone in shape? The best shape of their life, I'm saying.
Not the best. No.
I mean, Brandon won, but he wasn't his best. We already said that, Rulli wasn't his best. And then we have Ashkenani who wasn't his best. They were all big and full and round, but we're not seeing conditioning. It's all we're seeing almost like a big Ramy issue here. We can't get a guy. They're not getting these guys in the shape where they're grainy, hard, and separate. We haven't seen that.
I always, Jose Raymond, one of the, I think I'm on quote number 500 that I've written down of his, but I think quote number 18 on the list of best quotes is, there is an Olympia level of conditioning. And that says it all. There is an Olympia level of conditioning what that means is you have to bring at that show a level of conditioning that is your best to get the best look.
Yeah, he's right.
And it's as simple as that. And if I mean, not only was Ascanani smaller, but he wasn't in really good condition. So you're judging the show for real, not me and you handicapping it on a radio show. You're judging it, and the first thing you do is when someone comes out and hits the front double, your first impression is, oh, he was better last year.
Exactly.
Or he was better the year before. And automatically, now you're being judged like through a negative lens. Because if you come out and even if you can't beat, people, but you come out at your absolute best, judges are looking at you through a positive lens, and they tend to, you get a lot better comparisons, and that's the way it works.
No, you're right, 100%. You're 100% right. Let's talk about the classic physique division. Huge upset. Very rarely do we see a Mr. Olympia lose when he's, at his best or close to his best. Brianna Ansley was going for number 3. A lot of people thought it was a foregone conclusion. I didn't think he was going to lose. I said, there's no way this guy's going to lose because I know he's going to be in shape. I know Cormier's out there working with his posing. I'm like, how could this guy possibly lose? And Chris Bumstead came and delivered the goods because, the first year that Bumstead faced off against Ansley, I thought he won. Ansley narrowly beat him. Last year, Bumstead was dealing with some health issues. He was just noticeably off. I was surprised he got second, to be honest with you. And then this year he came back, and we knew he had torn a hamstring. We heard that the health issues were still there. But, man, did this guy look good on stage? Talk me through why Chris Bumstead beats Brianna Ansley and why he beats George Peterson.
Well, first off, this class had 39 guys, and probably the first 32 were extremely good, with the top 8 phenomenal, absolutely off the hook. And to judge it, on that convention stage, it's an expo stage, it's a smaller stage, I would never be able to judge it, but Steve Weinberger literally lined them up the way they should line up. You know what I mean? Like, he picked the first call out, that's who deserved the second call out, and with a fine-tooth comb, judged this show. And I did the wrap-up with Sid. And, I think I'm most honest immediately after a prejudging. I had picked in that prejudging Chris Bumstead to win. And the reason I picked him to win is, to me, he looks like he has, however you want to define, or however I define a classic structure more than anyone in the top 3. He's wider than people in the top 3. His front double bicep really opens up. His side chest looks like a bodybuilder, but still classic, versus Brianna and George Peterson, who are tremendous also in the side chest, but he's got thicker pecs in the side chest. His shoulder arms look bigger in the side chest. His rib box is higher. His thighs, the hamstring hangs lower. I mean, there's not a lot of poses in the right in the classic, like in the open. The back double,
yeah, you have to really dominate in those few poses that they give you.
Yep, the back double is probably the weaker of the 3, but it's because he's wider than, it's good enough to get him by. His ab shot, he has this crazy vacuum that he holds for like a minute, and everyone wants to hit a vacuum and think that's classic, but on him it does look classic. You can, just because you do a vacuum doesn't mean that you have a classic body.
Right.
And then he hits an ab shot, which is complete. His legs are phenomenal. And I just thought that the squareness of the shoulders, standing relaxed, along with the fullness of the pecs and his height and the roundness to his quads, just gave him the edge in the show. I had him winning. Winning the show, and I will say this: that Brianna was at his absolute all-time best, and so was George Peterson by a mile.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. This George Peterson smokes anything we've ever seen, and this Brianna smokes last year's winner. His winning look. I mean, Brianna had more development through his hamstrings, more detail through his hamstrings. His abs were a little watered out. I I mean, that was the only criticism on him. There was nothing that he could have done to bring a better package that day. So there's nothing to be frustrated about other than the result. And you've got to scratch your head and say, well, wait a minute, I'm better this year than I was last year, and I'm second place. It just Bumstead's stature, the height worked in his advantage. He's got, not that Brianna doesn't have tremendous stage presence, but I think that Chris Bumstead knows how to connect. Chris Bumstead has great stage presence.
Well, 6'1". I mean, you stand out a lot more. Let's face it.
I mean, you can't overlook width. And he was in great condition. Maybe not as sinewy and peeled up and sliced to the bone as Beyond, but he weighs more and he's a lot taller.
Right. The question is now, will he be able to maintain and defend this title? Because we know he is dealing with health issues. I had him on the TV show, before the Olympia, and like last week, and he was, he said he's dealing with issues, that affect his kidneys and affect, other aspects of his body.
This guy looks like his physique looks like it's healthy from head to toe.
It's amazing, right? But you know what? He said he's had to clean his lifestyle up in terms of he can't go out and party and stuff like that. And so maybe, it's forcing him to become a better bodybuilder too in doing so. Maybe he was coasting a little bit on some of his talents.
At this level, you can't have quasi off seasons. At this level, you can't go out and party. At this,
right.
you just can't.
Not. Yeah. Except if you're Chris Cormier. Now, what does George Peterson do? He cannot be any better than he is. I don't care what Justin, my friend Justin, who's coach, he can't be better than this in this division. Okay.
Milos had George Peterson, I think, win him when we did the wrap up.
I mean, you could make a case for him winning. He's probably the best bodybuilder on stage, but it's not a bodybuilding show. It's a classic physique show. So does George Peterson go to 212? Is that the right move for him, or does he just stay here? Hey, I'm third in the world. I won the Arnold. I'll just keep going.
I mean, you stay in the division which you've experienced incredible success in.
Right, but do you see him ever being able to win the Olympia at this point? Or is he going to have to just try to wait out these other guys?
Well, you know what, Dave? I honestly would. I believe if Chris Bumstead looked like he did last year, and Brianna, who was improved this year, looked like he did last year, possibly, maybe, I don't know, you could make an argument for George Peterson to have won this year. Right. So it's not far-fetched to think that he can't win.
Right.
My knock against George Peterson is that his arms or legs or both look long, which affect.
He's got a short torso, is what you're saying.
Okay, is that what it is?
Yeah, he's got a short torso and he's got no neck because he's so built. It looks like someone stuck his head on his body without a neck, and I think it makes him look a little squat. And that he looks like a 212 guy. That's what I see when I see him. He looks like a Jose Raymond type physique. And I don't know if he wants to put on the additional muscle. He doesn't really have to gain that much more to be in the top of the 212 because he's already like a good solid 200, 205 if he had to be.
Go ahead.
We're talking 10 pounds of muscle. I mean, I think it would be great to see him move up and just see what he can do because if anything, the 212 class is probably less talent pool in there than in the classic. He's going to have a lot tougher time as these new freaky classic guys put size on and really start challenging him structure-wise on stage. I say, you have 3 third-place finishes in a row at the Olympia, which is amazing. Move up. Do 212. See what you can do. I mean, you could always go back, right?
Yeah, you can go back. It's hard to say because you know how it is, Dave, is Steve Laurier's tremendous physique talent threw his hat into the 212 and got smoked.
That was a stupid move. That's a perfect example. I'm glad you brought Steve Laurius comes back next year. Can George Peterson beat if Steve Laurius improves a little bit with that structure? It's like the Chris Bumstead structure. It's like, you could be amazing and at your best, but these guys have that classic look that I think we as fans and press and the judges see as classic. There's a certain classic look. And I think that's what the debate was after George Peterson won the Arnold. And by the way, I thought he definitely deserved to win the Arnold. But I think he's going to lose when it's close and you get a guy with a structure like a Bumstead or you get a guy with a structure like a Laureus because it's a prettier look. And I think that's what people think of when they think classic physique. Whereas in 212, it's a bodybuilding show. It's like, who's the best physique up there? Conditioning, size, balance, flow. I think George, that's George all the way at this point.
Yeah, well, just close your eyes and, he's a big guy. Put him next to, I'll pull Kemal out of the argument. Put him next. How's he stand next to, on the front double next to Lunsford?
I don't know. I think he can hold his own against Lunsford.
May end up looking small. I don't know.
Well, yeah, but he could put 10 more pounds on still and be in that division. At 10 pounds heavier, how does he stand next to Lunsford? I think he might beat him, And is it more impressive to play second in 212 than it is third in classic and constantly being worried about these upcoming freaks right behind you? You know what I mean?
Well, good bodybuilders never worried about nothing.
No, I know what you're saying, but you know what it is? The problem is he's maxed. He's perfect on. I got to hand it to Justin. Justin did a phenomenal job. He's perfect. He's probably the best conditioned guy on the entire Olympia stage. Period.
It's another testament to Chris Bumstead because, like I said, I don't think George could have done anything to be better for the show, and I don't think Brianna could have done anything to be better for the show. Minus possibly his abs are holding a little bit of water. I don't know, but and Bumstead's still winning. It goes back to like structure. Chris Bumstead is like I think of like the I think like of a Linda Murray. Linda Murray never had to be peeled to win.
No. It's like Shanique Grant too, and then the women's physique.
Shanique Grant. You just got to be your best with good deep separation and roundness, and that carries the day. Yeah, and certainly carried it for Chris Bumstead. That's for sure. Congratulations on winning that Olympia title. It's always great to knock off a current reigning Mr. Olympia. Ray Edmonds did it in men's physique. Ray Edmonds, not only did he beat the reigning Mr. Olympia and Brandon Hendrickson, who had to settle for, I think, 4th place, but he beat Andre Ferguson, who was the Arnold Classic champ. And that was a really close battle. And, I love Andre Ferguson's physique, and I think a lot of people probably wouldn't have had a problem had Andre won. But Ray has that tall, once again, statuesque physique, and that seemed to be the name of the day for in the judges' minds, at least. You know what, Dave? I don't follow, the division close. I know who the top 3 and 4 people obviously are at the Olympia, and I think that looking at Andre Ferguson last year, I thought the only way this guy loses next year is if a taller, wider guy comes into the show.
Yeah. Well, he beat Raymond at the Arnold's. So
I know that.
I think it was just a look that the judges were looking at this year.
It's when people are close, Dave. Like I said, when people are close, this is still opinions.
Sure.
When people are close, you could take, and I mean this, you could take the top 4, the men's physique division, and have this judging panel, this IFBB judging panel judge it, and then the same judges don't judge every division, but just take the next. The judging panel that judged the 212. Let's say it's a little bit different than the men's physique. They still, they switch off sometimes, and you might have a little bit different results based on opinions.
You look at Raymond Edwards' physique, and this guy is huge. If you remember when men's physique started with, like when Mark Anthony was winning it, they were like these skinny little guys. Ray Edmonds, if his legs matched his upper body, and he doesn't have bad legs, I got news for you. He can do classic easily. He's huge. All these guys, Andre Ferguson, they all got great physiques. These guys, it's amazing what the division has developed into. I'm pretty happy. By the way, we have some great pictures on rxmuscle.com on the gallery, which is gallery.rxmuscle.com, taken by our great photographer Ralph Noble. The pictures have been up, so if you guys want to take a look at them, he took some terrific pictures. You can get a really good idea of what we're talking about here. when we go over this show. I just want to thank him for doing that. Actually, all you guys, I couldn't come this year obviously because of the new baby. You, Sid, Ralph, you guys killed it up there. With the coverage. Everyone,
Sid
Milos, who helped us out, obviously Sergio.
But Sid was the star.
He was Howard Cosell there. Yeah, he was great,
Yeah.
and he edited all the video. He did a terrific job. Terrific. Had to give him a bonus for that because he was so good. It's nice when I know that I can not go someplace and I can still expect the same level of coverage, and then when I am there, then I know we got a good team. That makes me feel really good that I didn't have to be there and that you guys did such a great job. You and you were helping 50 people there too at the same time, which is crazy when you think about it.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's just take a quick look at these other divisions. We talked about the fitness. Oh, we haven't talked about fitness. Fitness was won by Whitney Jones again, who repeated from last year. Now, Whitney had lost to Ryle Grable at the Arnold, and a lot of people thought that was it. But she came back here better than the Arnold. Her routine was great, and she's a two-time champion. So congratulations to her. Figure Olympia won by Sydney Gillen again. Latoya Watts, who made the comeback. Chris, both you and I love her physique. She could not do enough to knock out Sydney Gillen. Very close, 3-point show, but the two of them were, I guess, miles ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, crazy physiques.
Big upset in the bikini division. Elisa Pessini from Brazil. She knocks off reigning champ, Angelica Teixeira. So Angelica was going for win 3. She wasn't to get it. And second place is poor Janet Lag. Janet Lag is always second place, in all these shows. She's always second, which is not a bad place to be, but I'm sure she'd like to win that Olympia title. But so congratulations to Alicia Pacini. We had a lot of title changes this weekend, huh?
Crazy.
The only person who defended, one of the few people, was Shanique Grant, and Shanique unanimously delivered the goods. Ironically or interestingly, Natalia Coelho didn't finish second like we all expected. Sarah Villegas finishes in second here. So that's a big upset, I think, for at least for Natalia. It seems like everyone else is vying for second place here. It seems like second place is the title that everyone's going for because no one can beat Shanique. This, we said it when she won the first time. I said, this girl will, she's so young too, in her early 20s. She could win for 10 more years easily if she doesn't get hurt.
Yeah, it's right until someone else comes. You never.
Well, it's going to be one of those Linda Murray reigns until, like you said, some other crazy person comes along and challenges her. But I don't see that happening, at least not for the next couple of years. Danny Castillo finishes in 4th, and Laura Chinchilla from Spain in 5th. So congratulations to all those ladies. And the big announcement at the show was that the Miss Olympia is coming back next year. Surprise, surprise.
Oh, who predicted that?
Well, when you get a sponsor who loves women bodybuilding who puts up $1 million, it's if you don't bring back his favorite division, you're probably not going to get the $1 million from him again. I have to say, Jake Wood really stepped up to the plate with that Wings of Strength. I know Dan was instrumental in bringing Jake on, and I had a feeling that they were going to bring back. It's like they needed a whole year of transition to be able to I don't know why, but I saw Helly Trevino was in the house, and she won that Rising Phoenix show, which is it had become the Miss Olympia because they weren't having the Miss Olympia for a couple of years, and she won. We talked about that last week, $50,000, and that new Dodge Challenger Hellcat, which is worth probably $75,000. So she actually won more than all the women at the the Olympia one. So they might as well bring the women's bodybuilding Miss Olympia back and just restore it to its grandeur. Personally, and I've said this before, they should just combine the divisions. I don't even see how women's bodybuilding can be its own division. They don't have enough people competing in it.
Yeah, interesting. Well, it's going to be interesting to see I mean, who comes out of the who does Iris Kyle come back? I hear she's going to come back.
Well, she told me if they brought the Miss Olympia back, she would come back. So it'll be interesting to see how they.
Linda Murray come back.
Linda should come back. Yeah, why not? While we're at it, I mean, she's no older than all these other girls that are in the division, right?
How old is she? Kamal's 48. How old is she? She's 50. She's 2 years older than Kemal.
Is
Probably.
Linda 50? No, she had to be older than 50. Linda.
No, Dave. I don't. Let's see. I do know how old
She's
she
got to
is.
be in her 50s. She's got to be 55 at least.
No, she's not.
No?
I think. Well, she might be 52. I don't know.
She's got to be older than that.
Well,
She looks amazing. Still.
She was there. She was at the show. She's she's full blown shoulders and arms still. They're huge.
That's called genetics.
I know. That's what I mean. That's just walking around. Training twice a week probably.
Right. Well, look, it was a great show. I saw Blackman was lurking through the wrap up. What happened? How did that happen? You guys are doing your wrap up, and Blackman is like walking through the middle of the camera. Is he like have Alzheimer's or something like that? What's going on with him?
No, it was his own little. It was he walked through the camera and Bader's walking around the camera.
Well, Bader wanted to get on camera. Blackman, I don't know what he was doing. He was looked like he was lost or something like that. He had to have seen you guys all doing the wrap up. What was he trying to do? Crash it? Chris, ask me my opinion. I want to talk about. I like to talk about Brandon's glutes.
If I asked him for his opinion, he probably would have given it.
Oh, he definitely would have. You should have.
Steve, come on over here.
Yeah, if I was there, I would have pulled him over there. Sid probably was embarrassed.
If you wanted to bring Brandon in a little tighter, what do you think his answer would be, Dave?
You got to get him squeezed. He's got to squeeze on his, and when he's doing squats, he's got to squeeze at the top of the glutes.
No. Dietarily wise, what would he say? Fish.
Shiver. Are you fish?
Oh, fish.
Chris, much more insulin sensitivity. Got to get those receptors sensitive. Lower insulin output, less insulin, more fat burning. With the big bulging eyes.
You got to be there next year because I'll tell you what, it's a fun show to attend.
Yeah,
people who don't compete anymore, like all these rivalries, like Camel Crew and Hardy and me and Bader. I mean, those are legitimate, like little.
Yeah.
Gigs stuff that still live,
but it's all fun.
Yeah, but I see like all the people who don't compete anymore, and just the familiar faces. We all laugh, and I said, "This is like the Academy Awards." We're like, waiting to get into the prejudge, and you see all the faces: Flex, Cormier, Lee Labrada. I mean, the list goes on. It's just crazy. People like happy to be there, and they're excited about to go to the Olympia.
Yeah. Bad news. I just wanted to. It seems like we always have to report some terrible news, because even though the Olympia was a great weekend, and I want to just once again congratulate not only Dan Solomon, who ran a tremendous show, who bent over backwards. I texted him once during the thing, and he was, more than accommodating. I mean, it was effortless to deal with him. It was a pleasure. He put on a tremendous show. I think it's only going to get better from here. Tamer El Gunti, who was producing the show, who Dan had brought on, they did a great job backstage from what I hear. I mean, everyone was bragging about how great it was run back there. So the personnel that are in place for the Olympia now are the right ones for sure, and this is only going to make it better and better every weekend, every Olympia weekend that we have moving forward. And it's now a pleasure to go there. It's like we don't have to walk on eggshells. I don't have to be scared. We don't have to say, because it was getting to the point where I didn't even want to go anymore, because of the way they were conducting business. Now it's like Dan's like open book. Everything goes in terms of the more coverage, the better, and that really worked out well. Sean did a good job in the booth, although a lot of people thought he was a little too negative on the competitors there. I was actually texting him like little insights the whole night as they were doing the play-by-play, which was pretty cool. But the one thing I wanted to announce is I heard that Dave Shatterly, I don't know if you know who he is. He was a competitor back in the day. I actually interviewed him on one of his victories. Someone had sent me the link to it because I wasn't really sure who he was. But he was a big-time coach in Texas there. And evidently he died over the weekend. I don't know what happened. I heard heart attack. Some people said it wasn't a heart attack. All I know is he didn't make it out of Vegas, and very, very sad news. A lot of people liked him a lot. They said he was a great coach. I know he was. I didn't realize this, but a couple of people told me that he was talked very highly of me and respected, the information I knew and, and all the education I put out there. So, we send out our prayers and for his family, and obviously this is a tough time, and no one wants to see anyone, die at a show, and he wasn't even in the show. So I don't know what happened, but I'm sure we'll find out more about it as after an autopsy is done. But wow, we're just losing too many people, Chris. It makes me sad sometimes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know it is. I mean, how do you comment on that?
Is it just because we're getting older that we're seeing more people dying?
I was going to say it's just that's the way it is. It's like
my dad at 88 was saying that. He said, "I can't believe we're losing all these people. I'm losing all these friends." I'm like, "Dad, you're 88. What? When are you supposed to lose them?" I said, when you lose people when you're 40 or 30, that's a shame. I said, when guys are dropping dead at 90, I said, that's not really necessarily, a shocker right there.
Yeah.
So, well, good job, Chris. Thank you. I know you have a busy day because you've been gone for a week. I have a baby screaming. I'm going to get yelled at. So let's wrap this up. We'll have some more analysis shows during the week, of course. And I know Sid still has a lot of footage to put up from the weekend, especially from the expo. I want to just put a thank you out there to Milos, Sharshev, and Sergio for helping out as well with all the coverage. It was a good weekend. Give me your overall take of the whole weekend? Give me your overall impression if you had to just sum it up in like a couple sentences.
Fair.
No, I mean you're in terms of how you enjoyed the weekend.
Oh, I enjoyed it, but I can't overemphasize fair. Like people, the judging, meaning people lost their quote crowns, and I don't mean that in a negative way. That just means it was, just because you hold on to the title does not mean you're a shoo-in. And then the judging itself, for the most part, people got a chance to fight for first, second, third, fourth, and fifth in the divisions in which they were compared. And it was, a good time. You're right. It was, Dan Solomon did it. It was just a really well-run show. I think my only, I can never say anything positive without saying things negative. So that's just me. Is the press conference started off with like, wow, this is special. The way the production value going in, the way they introduced the athletes.
By the way, Sid was the announcer at the press conference, wasn't he?
I don't think he was. Was I don't know.
He announced all the names. Yes, he was the announcer.
And when you get to the press conference, it's like a Facebook meet. It's too long, and the theme has to change. I think from what are you gonna do this year that you didn't do last year? How was your prep? And people providing all their thanks, and they're just thrilled to be there. It needs to be shortened. It's the only part of the weekend that's needs improvement.
What could they possibly do for that press conference?
I mean, it gets too long. Is my point. It gets too long. Like everybody, I don't know. Maybe I don't know what they do.
I think what it is, we can't get enough. It's like we can't get enough, and then at some point we realize it's too much.
Yeah. But the flip side of that is probably just as exciting as the prejudge, and I hear it from fans all the time. Is the best part is when the people get to go meet the Olympians, at that, which they do on Thursday night.
Right.
Where people who is it VIP ticket holders only, or is it everyone?
I think the VIP just gets in early, but I think it's everyone.
Yeah, everyone. They get to go in and meet people and interact with. It's like Instagram comes alive.
It looked like it was. Everyone was saying how they weren't going to sell any tickets. It looked sold out, packed to me. Well,
it was sold out, packed, and people I know, who were selling stuff at the Meet the Olympians, did a good business. But it looked pretty full to me. Prejudging was.
I saw the pictures of the audience. It looked like there wasn't a seat in the house open. I don't know. Maybe you know better than I do.
It felt pretty packed, at the night show for sure.
So, well, they did a great job. Once again, I missed being there. Hopefully I'll be back next year. And congratulations to all our winners, especially our 15th Mr. Olympia that was crowned Brandon Curry. All right, that's going to do it for this week. Until next week, remember, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.
Good night, everyone.